was a nice buck. Man, that thing was a wall hanger for sure. So right now we got a south wind and it's blowing right into that cornfield. And I knew coming in here this morning that I was rolling the dice, but I was hoping that a lot of the deer movement will be coming from the south. But it just didn't work out in my favor today. As you saw, that doe was coming right in. It looked like she was going to come right down my main shooting lane, and then, you know, she caught my wind, stopped, and then went back on that ridge, and that buck went with her. That sucks, man. That's the nicest buck that I've seen out here so far this year. It was a cool encounter nonetheless, but man, I would have just loved to have been able to get that deer within bow range. I guess that's why they call it hunting. If I would have had my 450, it would have been lights out. That deer would be on the ground right now. Fingers crossed that deer went in that direction, so hopefully she comes back to feed on this corn later tonight, and when she does, hopefully she brings that buck with her. Just get it done tonight. But we're gonna sit, pay attention, see what the boys are doing. Everyone's out here today. We got Jamie, Jace, and Rob. They're all up in their stands, so I'll wait and see what those guys are doing, and then that'll kind of decide what I'm gonna plan on doing. You never know, we might catch a midday cruiser, but with the warm temps, I'm not too sure. Alright, so it's almost 3 o'clock, and we've been in the stand all day. Not a lot of action. I could have used a nap, running low on water, but we're in here for the rest of the afternoon. Shooting light goes till 5:42, so hopefully we can get another look at a buck and get a shot at it. It'd be great if that one from earlier came back. And actually, I was looking. I think I got a scrape right below me. Let me see if I can show you. I know it wasn't there last week, so I'm not 100% sure. I didn't go down and actually look at it, but I looked at it with my binos, and I'm pretty sure it's a scrape, so hopefully a buck comes in and tries to freshen that bad boy up. But we're out here today, so we're going to enjoy it, and hopefully we can see something tonight.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another hunt recap for the Michigan Whitetail series. Now on this recap, there are a few things that I want to talk about, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into them. The first thing is that I wanted to talk about is obviously that huge buck that we ended up seeing. That was actually Saturday morning. And just a little bit of history. So I've been hunting that spot for about 5 years now. The guys that I hunt with, Jace, Jamie, and Rob, they've been hunting out there for a long time. Jamie and Rob, they're a little older than Jace and I. So they've probably been hunting out there for 40 years, if not a little bit more. However, for me personally, that was hands down the biggest buck that I've ever seen out in those woods. He was a very, very nice, mature deer. Definitely a caliber of deer that we would love to shoot, especially on public land in Michigan. So seeing that deer was an awesome experience. Obviously, the only downside is there was a lot of things that went wrong with that hunt, and the main thing being the wind direction. So when that buck and that doe came in, that buck was actually dogging that doe. I don't think she was in heat, but he was definitely chasing her, and she started to work her way in, and she was working down one of the main shooting lanes that I have, which would have resulted in really a chip shot at 20 yards or under for me. Unfortunately, when she started to walk in though, as you guys saw in the video, she stuck her nose up in the air, and I knew immediately that that hunt was over. Once she caught my scent, she kind of dodged back and stayed on the opposite side of that ridge and got behind a bush. And I was so laser focused on that buck that I had actually put a tree in between the buck and I, so the buck couldn't see me. And anytime I was actually watching that buck, I was looking at him through the LCD screen on my camera. When I watched that doe stop on that ridge, I knew that she was going to hit another opening, so I tried to range that spot. And that was really, in my opinion, probably one of the downfall of that hunt, aside from the wind, is that I do think that she picked off a little bit of that movement. She had smelt something in the area and she was already on high alert. So just that little bit of movement of pulling my rangefinder out of my bino harness, I do think she picked that off, because you guys could hear her in the video tearing out of there. And then unfortunately she took that buck. Now that buck was definitely, you know, he's not that big for being stupid. So as soon as she stuck her nose up in that air, his sixth sense kicked in, and he locked up on that ridge and he did not advance forward anymore. So you know, it was really a bum deal. But looking back at that hunt, it did help me realize a couple things, and this is something that I've thought about for a couple years now. But being in that situation again is going to force me to actually act on it, and it's the fact that I need to move my stand. Now I've had 3 different bucks now in total this year be on that ridge and out of bow range. And I've seen it in previous years, definitely in the early season. They always hug the opposite side of that dried up riverbed, and it puts them out of bow range for me. So I need to move my stand, and I need to, at least at a maximum, have a 30-yard shot at that ridge so I can shoot a buck that comes out on that other side. The next thing that I learned is I just need to do a better job at playing the wind. I knew going into that hunt that I was rolling the dice on the wind direction, but it was supposed to be a southwest. And in that situation, if it was truly a southwest where she was coming in at, my wind would have not got to her. But unfortunately, the wind was going every which way that morning. It was coming out of the east, it was coming out of the west, and then it was blowing straight out of the south, which in that case it was. If it was truly a southwest wind, my wind she would not have caught my scent unless she had walked up basically right in front of me, which she was not really headed in that direction. So I just need to be more cautious of the wind and play it right for that area, and start to utilize that mobile setup a little bit more when the wind's not in my favor. Try to find either a different tree that'll play out better or just a different spot. The last thing that I learned, and this is something that I'm constantly working on, and as a hunter, it's probably one of my biggest downfalls, is I just move too much. You know, me trying to range that spot, I was so laser focused on that deer that I was not paying attention to that doe. I should have been, because of the fact that she was already on high alert. Maybe if I would have paid attention, she wouldn't have spooked out of there. But you know, unfortunately, like I said, I was moving, and I do believe that she picked me off. So going forward, I just need to do a better job at not moving so much. And a lot of that comes with experience. And one tip that you guys can do is, as you're sitting in your stand and you don't have deer around you, is start to pre-range all those areas. Now, as I mentioned, I was trying to range that spot, and I ended up ranging it after they had left. And that spot was 56 yards. And that, in my defense, that's why I had never ranged that spot before, is because I knew that that spot was out of my comfort zone as far as bow range goes. So if that buck would have stepped out at 56 yards, would I have shot him? Probably not. You know, in all reality, a lot can happen at 56 yards. I try to be the most ethical hunter that I can possibly be, and the last thing that I want to do is end up wounding an animal. And like I said, a lot can happen at that yardages. From the time that bow goes off to the time the arrow gets downrange, that buck can duck, he can whirl, and really that can ultimately just end in either a bad shot that doesn't kill the animal, or it's a gut shot and you never find him and he ends up dying somewhere. So it's not a shot that I would have been comfortable taking. Now, as an archer, I am very, very confident to shoot 56 yards. I practice at long distances throughout the year, but obviously shooting a whitetail at 56 yards is a lot different than shooting a bag target or a 3D target. The next thing that I want to talk about is the buck that you guys did not see, which came out Saturday. And this also reinforces the fact that I need to move my stand to be able to shoot that ridge. So I had another buck come in. He wasn't nearly as big, but he was definitely a buck I would have been happy taking. He came in and again hugged that ridge, following some does back into that cornfield. It's just, you know, it's a bummer. I told myself earlier in the day that I should go back and grab my stand and move it so I could shoot that other side of that ridge, but I never did it. So, you know, I need to start listening to my gut a little bit more, because I would have been in a situation to shoot that buck. And I don't know what was going on with that buck, but his back leg was injured. He was not putting any weight on it, so I'm not sure if that buck got hit by a car or something happened to him out in the field where that leg was broken. But I did find that pretty surprising that he would not put any weight on it. So I'm not sure what the future looks like for that buck. I don't know how the harsh winter is going to affect him, if he'll make it, or if he's going to be a little more prone to coyotes in the late winter. So we will see. Hopefully in the coming weeks we will get another chance at that big mature buck. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys have made it to this point, please remember to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and then if you guys haven't, please also go check out MichiganAmbushoutdoors.com. It's not a requirement that you guys buy anything, but we do have some merch available, and your guys' purchases of that merch greatly supports out this channel and keeps us doing what we're doing. And stay tuned, because gun season is only days away. I am a huge bow hunter, but I am tired of deer being out of range. So this year I am super excited to get the Bushmaster out and put a squash to yardage, distances, and deer not being within range. So that 450, if I would have had it with me, that big buck, hands down, would be at the taxidermy right now. So, but it just didn't work out that way, and that's why they call it hunting. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Please continue to follow us throughout the season. I do anticipate a lot more deer activity with the rut coming up, and hopefully we can get a nice buck on the ground. As always, we'll see you guys on the next one.